I just want to start by saying, for everyone watching right now, you are certified sickos. We've got March Madness underway, and this is probably not the best marketing for my own live show, but for everyone tuned in right now, I want to shake your hand and give you a hug because you could be watching wall-to-wall basketball, but you're hanging out with me talking about the Atlanta Falcons at the end of March. So we're going to get through our live show today a little bit on the quicker side. I've got a flight to catch. I'm leaving for the airport in an hour and 15 minutes, so we do not have much time to dilly-dally. But as always, shout out your city for me in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. We'll spend the next 2 to 3 minutes letting the audience build up. People click on the notification. We had to move the start time around a little bit, but I figured the sooner the better so that we can get back to basketball. So I've got the live scores up in front of me here. McNeese State, by the way, early lead over Clemson, 18-8. With about 8 minutes to go in the first half, but the real bracket breaker was anyone that took Louisville in Lexington to beat Creighton. They are disappointed. They lost by 14, which I did take Creighton because I felt like everyone had already gotten pre-mad for Auburn having to play Louisville in the round of 32 in Lexington and say that's not fair, because that's basically a home game for Louisville. And I was like, ooh, 3D chess right now. What if that never happens because Creighton just wins? So I went with Creighton. All right, where's everyone watching from? I've got Quincy in Warren, Ohio. Brandon's in New Orleans. I'll be in New Orleans in 3 weeks. It's going to be here before you know it. My bachelor party's going to be there. Marlon's in Tracy, Riverdale, McDonough, Georgia, Birmingham, Alabama. Colin is in Athens, Georgia. Colin, did you hear the news? I really couldn't believe it this time. Another Georgia player arrested for a driving infraction. I think it's just a bit at this point. Oh, it's nitro, yeah. I think this is just an ongoing joke in the locker room. I wonder if it's a competition. Who can get pulled over the most? And they're winning.
Somebody said, I think one of our coworkers, I forget who it was, said they should get a NIL deal with Uber.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, let me ask you this question. Who do you have winning your bracket? I've got Duke beating Michigan State. Before we went live, I just told Reed, I don't try to pass myself off as a diehard college basketball fan from the start of the year to March. I don't really get into college basketball until after the Super Bowl, and that's very late in the game. So I don't think if you're in that same camp as me, you can let your bracket being broken dictate your mood for the entire weekend. Except that you're not going to have a good bracket, and then you'll be at peace with watching the games.
I also have Duke winning, but I have them beating Florida.
Okay. See, I tinkered with my bracket so much yesterday. I originally had Duke. No, I still have Duke beating Michigan State, but I had Florida going to the Final Four. But then I was like, fuck Florida. Yeah. So I swapped them out for Maryland, the Crab Five. All-time nickname right there for their starting five. So coming up on today's show, we're going to run through some of the news and rumors out there. Then we have a Mel Kiper updated big board I thought you guys might be interested in, since we're starting to change our brains from free agency to draft. It's kind of like when the clocks change, right? Daylight savings time happens. There's a moment in time where it's like, all right, free agency, dropping you. You're boring. All the good players are signed. Let's get ready for the draft. It's weird how it goes draft. Like, season ends, week 18. It's all draft for the next week. And then it's like, wait, free agency comes first. Let's talk about free agency, actually. And then we go back to the draft. Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. And then a mailbag. So get your questions in, hashtag Falcons or Super Chat. If you Super Chat, we guarantee your question, your take, your comment gets on screen for everyone watching to see. I wonder if Mr. Haha and all the other big ballers from last week are in the chat today. We got ZD Productions back. ZD, I don't know if you're still on my shit list after the Younghoe Koo thing, because I still have nightmares about it. Marlon has Florida winning. Kyle, I have Tennessee. I like Kyle. Amon K, I have Duke over Michigan. Boomstick, good to see you. Who do you guys have? Matt is already getting a question in. Great question, Matt. I'm looking forward to answering that. So get your questions in. hashtag Falcons or Super Chat. All right. Are we ready to jump into our first segment for today's live show? Once again, we have 140 people watching. Every single one of you should be jailed. Watching a Falcons live show, and this is coming from me of all people, during March Madness is psychotic. If anyone ever asked me, did you ever think that guy could be a serial axe killer? And I learned, they watched Falcons Today during March Madness. Yeah, checks out. Makes sense to me. And that's coming from me, the person who's trying to advertise his own show.
Unless they have multiple monitors.
That's a good point. Are you a multiple TV/monitor person? Where's the audio at? Watching this show with no audio would be kind of trippy. I think it'd be, I wouldn't say confusing. It'd be confusing for sure, but kind of scary. As you just follow what's on screen graphic-wise, you're like, how the hell did we get here?
We try to do our best of having what we talk about on screen.
Yeah. Little background.
When you go full screen and it's just a regular, subscribe to Falcons Today, and it's just you talking.
Right.
You're like, what is he talking about?
In case you're wondering the thought process behind a lot of things I do, I try to script. And when I say script, I don't want you to think that everything I say is written out on a teleprompter. Right now, I'm talking to just a camera. There's a light there, a monitor there, and then a big black wall back there, and Reed over there. So I'm not talking to a teleprompter, but I try to script my shows out in a storybook fashion because everyone likes pictures. And I figure if there's pictures on screen, you might be more interested to stay around for a little bit longer. All right, let's not dilly-dally. Let's get into it. Willie's got 3 monitors. I like it. Here we go. Are we ready? Let's talk about a Micah Parsons trade possibility. Welcome on into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here. Kicking the tires on this one. I don't want to pass along any kind of idea that the Falcons have picked up the phone and called Dallas and made a trade offer. Maybe they have, but that's not the purpose of the video. I don't know that for a fact, and I'm not trying to spread that as a fact. But what I am trying to do is my job, and I feel like a lot of times my job is trying to connect the dots, right? Trying to get ahead of things. And this one might just be a big flat, fall on my face miss. But maybe not. And let me explain why, and then you can yell at me in the comment section after. So Ja'Marr Chase, as we all know by now, got a huge extension along with T. Higgins from the Bengals. That came not long after Myles Garrett got a huge extension to become the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, topping Max Crosby, who got his just a few weeks before Garrett. And then last year, Justin Jefferson, and the year before that, Nick Bosa. So if you can see what's going on here, prices are obviously going up with the salary cap going up, and that's not great news for franchises that like to drag their feet when it comes to extending their players. Like the Dallas Cowboys, who gave Dak a $60 million a year extension Sunday of NFL Week 1. CeeDee Lamb, who they dragged their feet on. I could see the Cowboys dragging their feet on this one. And if the price continues to skyrocket, do the Cowboys decide it might be better just to trade Parsons altogether and not pay him? Now, there's been some Micah chatter on the internet because of Micah's brother, Terrence. And this is a screenshot from a interaction he had on Twitter where Terrence initially put out this cryptic message of like, something's coming, ... And everyone's like, oh my God, is Mike about to get an extension? His brother's tweeting about this. And then some Cowboys, fan tweeted out saying Cowboys finally paid Micah. What makes you say that? His brother said so. And then he said, not yet, LOL, but they are in serious talks. So that was perceived as what it says, serious talks. This is coming from Micah's brother. Jane Slater, who covers the Cowboys, she followed it up with, while there is chatter on Twitter about Micah Parsons and a contract extension being finalized, I checked. Not only is it not done, but what would be characterized as meaningful talks haven't even begun yet. So the Cowboys and Micah are still not even at the negotiating table. I don't even know if they're at the parking lot right now. They're probably still at home And they haven't even gotten that far in a dialogue. But with what happened to Ja'Marr Chase getting over $40 million a year, one would think Micah's asking price is now $41 million a season, which begs the question, do the Cowboys want to pay Micah Parsons? That number is only going to go up the longer they wait. Who's to say another player won't swoop in and top Ja'Marr Chase if they drag their feet with Micah Parsons? And there's always been some level of smoke around the Cowboys not loving Micah off the field. And Jerry strikes me as someone who wants to make an investment into a character, not just a player, right? The characteristics that make up the person. And Micah's never been afraid to speak his mind online. By the way, speaking of Micah, Terrence basically said, I made all that up. Why would you ever believe me? This just goes to show. Micah said, my brother Terrence does not speak for me. So there was actually no validity whatsoever to what Terrence had to say. He was just trying to get interaction online. Back to the story, though. I wonder if Jerry decides, whoa, $42 million a season, I don't think we want to invest that in Micah Parsons. And this would be the time to trade him because it's a very deep and loaded pass rusher class. You're probably not going to find another Micah Parsons, but you might get 3 draft picks out of it who put together could be better than Micah. And then Jerry, who is obviously they're all billionaires, but he's really rich, gets off the hook for paying $42 million a year, $168, $170 million, with well over $100 million guaranteed. Just paid Dak, he just paid CD. He may not decide he wants to do that after a losing season. So I bring this up because I'm not trying to fabricate anything here. There was this, we'll call rumor, that came out last April from a Cowboys beat reporter, I think it was a radio host, Shan Sharif, who said, I've heard from way too many people this offseason. I'm talking about at least 4 different people that Micah has worn thin here. I don't know how much is true and how much it actually hurts. I don't know whether this is the behavior of a typical superstar. I don't know how damaging it is, but all I do know is this. I've heard from way too many people that if Micah Parsons was out of there, there would be a decent amount of people inside the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco smiling or breathing a sigh of relief. So I'm not discussing all this into a Cowboys video. As you could imagine, we can now bring the Falcons into the mix here. It's no secret Atlanta desperately needs a pass rusher. They struck out in free agency. They didn't get the good chance to sign anyone. And they may decide to, instead of betting on themselves in the draft, since as a franchise they suck at that, to just take the shortcut and go trade for a proven player. That, yeah, you have to pay now, and you don't get the benefit of all their greatness on their rookie contract, but you also don't roll the dice on another Vic Beasley or Tack McKinley. So here's what I think a Parsons extension could look like. 4 years, $168 million. That's an average of $42 million a season with $115 million guaranteed. As always, the way I like to look at contracts, subtract 1 from the year, 3 years, apply to the guaranteed. 3 years, $115 million. So that is what I think Parsons is going to get roughly. And that would top Ja'Marr Chase. And I think Parsons is going to want to just get more than just a little bit more. Like this was a petty kind of, give him an extra $4 million. So actually at $1 million, whatever the math is. So he's now the new highest paid non-quarterback. No, I think Parsons would come in here and blow this number out of the water with 42. So now that we looked over what it would cost to get Micah, cost to pay Micah, what would it cost to get him? Somewhere in this neighborhood? 2 firsts and a third. Khalil Mack got traded from the Raiders to the Bears, and he was coming off a Defensive Player of the Year season, or 2 years removed from one. He went for firsts and seconds. Wasn't very far off from this. This is kind of just a simple one. Maybe there's some picks going back and forth. A third here, but a fifth over here. But at its core, I think you're giving up 2 firsts and a future day 3 pick. This is probably on the higher end. I don't want to pass it off as, oh, it'd be super cheap, just one first rounder. No, of course not. You'd have to give up, I'd imagine, 2 firsts, especially because Dallas, I don't think really wants to trade Micah. Like, it's not like they're calling people for Micah. I think if someone called them for Micah and made this offer, they'd really consider it because it allows them to avoid giving him that huge extension. And if we're going to take Sharif's word for it, a bit of a sigh of relief because I think some of his online, off-the-field antics have worn thin with Jerry Jones and company. So this could be something where the Cowboys go, we don't really want to trade Micah, but we don't really want to give him $42 million. And, man, that's a pretty good haul in return. We could take that 15th pick. We could use it on a new pass rusher to help try and replace Micah. Then we get another first-round pick next year, so we have 2 firsts and an additional day 3 pick. Micah's better than whoever we're going to get at 15, but he might not be better than 15, another first, and another third. And these 3 guys combined will be cheaper than $42 million, which to Jerry Jones, I think is something he could have interest in. So to summarize the whole video, would you trade and extend Micah Parsons? Give me a yes or give me a no. My answer coming up in a moment, but scroll on down, give me yours. I do this in a heartbeat. Don't overthink it. I know that's a lot of draft capital, but let's just go down memory lane a little bit here. Ready? I'm going to do this live on the show. Not even prepared for it. Falcons draft history. Let's say the Falcons did this trade a few years ago. Which picks would they have lost out on? All right. They would have no Bijan, no Braylon Trice, and no Drake London. 2 good picks there in Bijan and Drake London. I think they'd be okay without Trice. Pick a different span. How about this? Would you rather have Micah Parsons or A.J. Terrell, Kyle Pitts, and Jalen Mayfield? I'd take Micah Parsons over that, right? You can kind of find years to add up for. How about this one? Would you rather have Micah Parsons or Keanu Neal, Tack McKinley, and Duke Riley? A lot of you are probably thinking, hey, I've actually never heard of some of those guys. Yeah, that's how impactful they were. So it's not always a good time to do it. If you're picking top 10 like Atlanta was for Bijan and Drake London, but if you feel like Micah can be the piece that puts you in the 20s when you were selecting Calvin Ridley, Tack McKinley, Keanu Neal at 17, Desmond Trufant, he was good. I mean, if you think you're picking late round 1, it's not a bad bet to make on yourself. Because sure, London and Bijan are great, but those were 8th overall picks. I would hope with Micah and Penix firing, you're not picking top 10 anymore. You're picking in the 20s. All right, before we sign off, quick reminder, over at Fanatics, they have some great sideline gear, 35% off. So go to chatsports.com/ATL sale. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. So if you want to get some more Falcons gear in your closet for the summer, they have more than just this pullover right here. They have lots of stuff on sale. So check it out today, chatsports.com/ATL sale. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in and hanging out with us. If you enjoyed the video, give us a like on your way out, and I'll see everyone later. What is the consensus? Would you trade and extend Micah Parsons? It looks kind of 50-50-ish. While you guys get your answers in, McNeese State, oh my God. I picked McNeese, and then I flipped it to Clemson because Will Wade left. They're up 31-13, it looks like, at the half. I'm furious myself. I had McNeese going to the Sweet 16, and I faded him the moment Will Wade jumped ship for NC State. Auburn is winning against 16 Alabama State, but not by a ton. It's 41-33, so we'll keep eyes on that one. Wisconsin beat Montana. You know, every single year, the whole country rallies around a couple of higher seeds to win round 1. I don't think I heard a single person say they like Montana against Wisconsin. There was no traction on that one. What a stress-free day that was for Badgers fans. VCU on top of BYU, 10-8 early in that game. So,
do you see what Carson said?
Carson, what's going on, dude? PD, could you put on something less vulgar? Children could be watching. Tennessee's playing today. I don't wear Tennessee gear all that often. It's really only on big game days. March Madness. I think I wore something after. I think I wore this after they won the College Baseball World Series, and then maybe something for making the playoffs or something like that. All right, 177 people. If you have any questions, by the way, get them in right now. Hashtag Falcons or Super Chat. Super Chat, you skip the line. We guarantee your question or take gets on screen. Hashtag Falcons. Reed picks his favorite questions. So next up on the show, we're going to react to Mel Kiper's latest big board, see who could be around pick number 15 for Atlanta. Just some more names for you guys to get familiar with. All right. We have 51 likes, 166 people hanging out with us, 166 psychos watching during March Madness, but love every single one of you. If you have not liked the video yet, scroll on down. Once we get to 60 likes, we're 8 away. We'll start the Mel Kiper big board segment. Fucking Clemson, dude. Because last year, I picked Clemson to lose against New Mexico and Little Petonio, and Clemson went all the way to the Elite Eight. So I was like, I learned my lesson last year. Don't fade Clemson because they're not really a traditional basketball powerhouse. This year, they're fucking me.
Well, whole half left. Whole half left.
They scored 13 points in the first half.
Okay, to be fair, when they played Louisville, they were down, I think, 15 with about 4 or 5 minutes left in the game, and they brought it all the way back to tie game. And they lost, but they can play basketball in like scary situations. They can come back.
All right. We're at 58 likes, 2 more to go. Like the video if you haven't already. If we get Parsons with 42 million and he gets hurt, yeah. I mean, you say no to all players because they might get hurt? Micah, by the way, I don't think missed a game his entire career up until this past season, which he missed 4 games. He's not a chronically injured player, I'd say. And we got to 60 likes. Thank you to the 8 people that liked the video. Let's dive head first. Mel Kiper, big board. Welcome on in to another edition of Falcons Today. I am breaking down Mel Kiper's big board as we start to shift our brains from free agency to the draft. And I think it's a good time for those of you that have been watching our coverage or keeping up with the draft since January to learn a couple of new names and faces. Or for those of you that are like, all right, let's get ready for the draft. I don't really start that type of prep work until late March, early April. Tell me everything I need to know. That's what I want to accomplish on today's episode. Now, if you want more draft content, make sure to subscribe. We've got 34,076 subscribers here at Falcons Today. So if you are looking to hop aboard the #1 Falcons YouTube channel, don't waste any more of your time. Scroll on down and click that sub button. So let's go 1 through 5 first for Kiper's top 25 players. None of these guys are going to be there at 15. Maybe Ashton, Jeanty, but I don't think he'll escape the top 10. Moving on, 6, 7, 8, 9. Cam Ward and Tyler Warren, I don't think, well, Cam Ward's going first, and Tyler Warren, I don't expect to be on Atlanta's radar. But Jalon Walker from UGA and Jihaad Campbell from Alabama. Let's pause right here and talk about these 2 prospects, which we have discussed before on the show, but I know not everyone watches every single draft video. So let's do a quick little refresher. Starting with Jalon Walker, 6.5 sacks last year. Keep in mind his teammate Michael Williams had 5.5, 6.5 himself, and Walker was a more off-ball linebacker than true edge rusher. I mean, they used him at the edge at times because he's one of the best pure all-around football players and athletes in this draft. And if Atlanta sees him available at 15, they may feel he's too good of a pure football player to pass on. Even if he projects, as I think he will be, an inside linebacker, you can get creative with him. I think he's Caden Ellis on steroids. So you could have a lot of fun with blitz packages, but if you're looking for a true edge rusher, I don't believe he's big enough to fill that role. Meanwhile, Jihaad Campbell, he is your traditional middle linebacker. And if that's something Atlanta wants to check the box of, that's the guy to go to. I don't believe that's going to be the case for them. They just signed Divine Diablo. They've got Caden Ellis. They've got Troy Anderson. Campbell and Walker, I think, are going to be good players at the next level. But I don't think the Falcons are looking for off-ball linebackers. So unless Walker, I think, who is much higher in my book than Campbell, like not just one spot ahead, but a handful of spots ahead, is available at 15, and Atlanta's like, if we're going to do best player available, that's the best guy. That's the only path I see for him coming to Atlanta. Personally, I don't think Walker gets past the Panthers at 8. They need a new middle, like center leader of the defense in the middle. And that seems like a good home for him. Campbell, I think, is probably going to go after 15, more in the 20s, just because the middle linebacker's position going down the drain in value. On to number 10. It's my favorite prospect for Atlanta, and frequent viewers know this. Michigan cornerback Will Johnson. We've talked at length about Johnson and how, while Atlanta needs to get an edge rusher, if there is an exception to that, it's the Will Johnson monster corner. 2023 helped Michigan win the national championship game with 4 interceptions, 8 pass breakups, 3 pick sixes in his last 2 years. He did miss a substantial amount of time in 2024 with a turf toe injury. There are concerns about his long speed. He did not run the 40 at the combine, and he's not running it at his pro day reportedly. So those things have dinged him a little bit. And why you probably saw him going earlier in mock drafts back in January, like as early as 5 sometimes to the Jags, I've seen him fall all the way to the Bengals at 18. So he's got a wide range of where he could end up. But I think he's going to be an incredible corner. I think pairing him, Terrell, and Bates for the foreseeable future would form one of the best secondaries. Forget the NFC South, forget the NFC, in the NFL, period. I would love a Will Johnson pick for Atlanta. So let me know, who would you take? Would it be Will Johnson at 15? Give me a yes or give me a no. If it's a no, tell me the other name you'd like. I completely understand why you might say no, because you want to get a pass rusher. And I'm right there with you. But I just think he's going to be someone that we look back at as one of the best corners in football. And if I say I love best player available, and that's the common and popular trend for people to say, if he's available, I think he'll be the best player. And you got to stick to your word if you want to go best player available. Moving on to 11 to 15, you got Armin Membo. They're not going to go guard or tackle. Colston Loveland, unlikely they go tight end. Same goes for Will Campbell. No running back. But Mike Green, our Marshall Thundering Herd, an FBS leading 17 sacks a year ago, friend. He could very, very well be the pick for Atlanta. This would not be a surprise to me if on April we hear, with the 15th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Mike Green, defensive end, Marshall. I don't think they say edge at the draft. So he led the FBS in sacks last year. There is a little bit of skeletons in his closet. Started off in Virginia, played in 2021. Didn't play in 2022. Then he transfers to Marshall, and he only starts 1 year, 2024. So there's not a lot of tape out on him. There's just really 1 season to go off of. And that could give some GMs the heebie-jeebies of, we're going to take a one-hit wonder season in a non-Power 5 conference. I could see some teams looking at that. And I don't want to, say he's guilty of anything, but being accused of not once but twice sexual misconduct, sexual assault, something of that nature in high school and in college, that could be a non-starter for some teams. But I'm always in the camp of innocent until proven guilty, and I don't want to go out there and say, oh, there's allegations. Yeah, we're moving for your draft board. No, this is an NFL team that has a team of scouts and people who have to do their job and figure out, is there any truth behind this? And if so, are you going to take someone onto your team that finds themselves in trouble in 1 to 2 years, and you wasted the 15th overall pick on something that could have been foreseen based on doing your homework from high school and college? Before we look at the other players on Kiper's big board, quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players. We've got all the games going on this weekend. Basketball season is heating up, and with Prize Picks, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. They offer Venmo and MasterCard for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Moving on to number 16 to 20, a couple of Bulldogs here. Micah Williams, Shedeur Stewart, Jackson Dart jumps all the way up to 18 to not being ranked. Then a wide receiver, Tet McMillan, and Georgia safety Malachi Starks. Let's go in order of likelihood, starting with Micah Williams, who was one of the best pure athletes on that Georgia defense last year. He's a prototypical dream-size edge rusher. 6'5", 265. He can play outside linebacker. You could probably put him at defensive end. So he's got some versatility based on what kind of scheme he's going to be walking into. 4-3 or a 3-4 defense. His physical traits is what's impressed people the most. He is dominant when it comes to his speed to power. Now, he did miss some time. Sorry, he did not miss time, but he did miss, I would say, valuable reps because of an ankle injury. And that's what led to him having 5 sacks. He played 12 games, so you look at that and you go, ooh, 5 sacks in 12 games, and that's the edge rusher at 15? I don't think so. And I'm right there with you most of the time, but I do feel like the ankle injury he suffered early in the year is a fair reason to look at and go, hey, that's what held him back from reaching his full potential, and we can unlock that with him in the NFL once that ankle is healthy, and we're going to get way more than 5 sacks out of him. So Williams is one of my very, very rare exceptions to I need production, because you still did get production. You got 5 sacks out of him. That's not nothing, right? Sure, I'd like to have a little bit more, but he definitely had some big moments in the biggest games, like in the SEC championship game against Texas. So I would be very happy with a Williams pick at number 15. Shedeur Stewart is up next, the A&M defensive end. Listen, I just gave a whole TED talk about how much I need production, and I got to stick to my word here. 3 straight years of 1.5 sacks. For me, that's a non-starter. Some other team can take a chance on him. He's an incredible athlete. He tested through the roof at the combine. Not me at 15. I pass. I don't believe that 3 straight years of college football and you never get more than 1.5 sacks, you're going to wake up one day in the NFL and figure out how to do it. I don't need production for wide receivers, for running backs, for quarterbacks. I need it for defensive ends. Because in college, you're going one-on-one 90% of the time. If you can't beat your guy one-on-one in college, why is it going to get any better in the NFL? Pressures are great. I like pressures. But 1.5 sacks, that's just too low of a number for me for the 15th overall pick. Let's switch gears and go to the DBs now. We got Nick Emanwari. We can actually bundle the 2 safeties that are back-to-back here, where we have Emanwari and then Malachi Starks from Georgia. So let's talk about these 2 guys, because I could see Atlanta deciding to wait for an edge rusher in round 2 and get Starks or Emanwari in round number 1 and kind of play the board a little bit, knowing very deep at edge, not so deep at safety. The edge we get in round 2 is going to be not too far behind the edge we get in round 1, but the same cannot be said for a safety. So Starks is more of your traditional safety in my eyes. He's like 5'11", 200 pounds. You can see the ball skills. Look at all the interceptions in his career. Only 1 this past year, but look at 2023. 10 pass breakups, 3 picks, 6 altogether. That's not a small number. Emanwari was a little bit of a late-ish bloomer. He's also more of like a linebacker at safety. He's 6'2". He's 220 pounds. Both guys are good against the run, but they're just not quite the same style of play. But this past year, the Gamecock, 4 interceptions and 2 pick sixes, 6 pass breakups. I guess late bloomer is not doing him justice. 10 pass breakups and 2 picks the season prior to that. But these safeties are going to be, I think, really good at the next level. I don't look at either of them as prospects that are going to transcend the position. I think they're going to be valuable starters for a few teams. Probably play 6-7 years in the team that drafts them, get a follow-up contract for another team for 3 years, and then hop around for another few years and play 12 seasons in the NFL and be a really good starter. So I wouldn't hate. They're good players. And so if you're picking a good player, it's hard to be upset. But safety is not the thing that's the squeaky wheel for Atlanta's defense right now. They signed Jordan Fuller in free agency just to a 1-year contract. So him coming over, I don't think prohibits a safety pick because he's not the future at that position. But I would think you just got to address pass rusher unless your name is Will Johnson. And then 22 to 25, you're not going to go offensive line. Jahdae Barron, I think, will be more of a round 2 target for Atlanta, but I love the versatility he offers. Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden, no way they're taking a wide receiver at 15. You've got London, Mooney, and Ray McCloud, but my favorite receiver, in case you're wondering, is Matthew Golden in this draft class. So let me know who you would like to see Atlanta pick. Scroll on down, drop a name for me in the comment section. My rankings go Will Johnson, Michael Williams, and James Pierce wasn't even in this top 25, so he fell off just by having a really good combine. That's interesting. James Pierce, but that's probably my Tennessee bias showing right now. But for me, it's Will Johnson and Michael Williams high up there. And then like Mike Green, James Pierce, they're battling for 3 and 4. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and like the video on your way out the door, and I'll see everyone tomorrow.
The Falcons have signed somebody.
Oh, I literally just looked down and I saw, have we gone over Agnew signing with us? Yeah. Mark broke the news to me. Who they signed? Jamal Agnew? Yep. All right. Well, let's break that down, shall we? What's going on? Mark, you're my Schefter. Well, this is your Avery Williams replacement. Yep. Do you want to just move this tweet over and I'll roll from there and we'll break down this Jamal Agnew signing? Does that sound like a good plan for everyone? So Jamal Agnew signing with the Falcons. He has been a special team artist and return specialist for much of his career. Was with the Jags for a long time. That's what I best remember. Actually, with the Lions for 4 years, and then with the Jags the last 3 seasons. Did not play in 2024, though. I think he was on the Steelers practice squad or something. Where was he last? Was he injured in 2024? Yeah, he got injured in 2023, it looks like. And then signed to the Steelers practice squad 2/3 of the way through the 2024 season. So Jamal Agnew comes over. I think this is your Avery Williams replacement. He went to the Eagles in free agency. So Falcons adding a new special teams guy to help with the return side of things. And it's a former Pro Bowler in Jamal Agnew. So let's break down this signing, Mr. Reed. And then we can do the mailbag after that. Does that sound like a good plan to everyone watching right now? I like how I say this. I kind of feel like Dora. I'm just asking questions and you're all just yelling at the screen. So while we look at some Jamal Agnew info, because I won't pass myself off as a Jamal Agnew expert, I will look at the updated scores from March Madness. Auburn is pulled away from Alabama State. It's 58-40. VCU and BYU even at 22. And McNeese State and Clemson about to come out of the half, 31-13 for the Cowboys, led by Will Wade, who is coaching his last game for the Cowboys every single time he walks on the court potentially. He's already accepted a job with NC State. I don't know why they can't keep that stuff quiet until it's over. Jamal Agnew. Okay. Corner, I say wide receiver. Well, he started off as a corner. He switched to receiver. I think he's just a return specialist. I mean, I'll look at the snaps real quick here. Jamal Agnew. He has not played a snap on defense in 4 years, but he's played a lot on special teams. But maybe that's because he's been playing offensive snaps. Let's take a look. Offensive snaps? No. He has played that's at the beginning of his career. Sorry. Let's try this again. Offensive snaps? Any offensive snaps? Oh, a little bit, yeah. He's played a little offense here and there, a couple of snaps a game. Started off playing defense, though, and then transitioned to wide receiver. 5th round pick by the Lions out of San Diego in 2017. So Jamal Agnew joining Atlanta. I think this is your Avery Williams replacement. He's going to step in and probably be your number 1 kick returner. He did not play in the regular season last year. He was on the Steelers practice squad, but we're going to do a more in-depth breakdown on this. Overall thoughts, though? Don't worry about that. Let's just, yep, we'll break it down. Okay. So Jamal Agnew coming over, as I've said a million times now, but people are still filing on in, so I don't want them to miss the news. Signing with Atlanta. And Clemson, hey, they scored first to begin the second half, 31-15. They're only down 16 now. Come on, Tigers. Give me a comeback. Are we ready to rumble? Everyone shout out Reed. Sorry, whenever news breaks while we're live, it's actually more difficult than one would imagine because we have to talk like a monkey to you and keep you entertained, but I need to do stuff on my computer as well, and it's tough to talk and type at the same time. Okay. I'm ready. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Excellent. Yep. Close enough. Yeah, it is. All right. We're going to break down the signing, and I'll tell you everything you need to know about Jamal Agnew that I know and my thoughts and reaction to the signing altogether. So, are we ready? I said that a million times, but I think we are. Okay. We've got some breaking news here. The Atlanta Falcons are making a signing. They are bringing in return specialist and special team ace Jamal Agnew. So we're going to talk about him, who he is as a player, get you familiar with him, and what his role will be on this Falcons roster, which, spoiler, it's special teams. I don't think they are signing him to play receiver, which is the last position he played, or defensive back, which he played coming out of college for the Detroit Lions. No, the one-time Pro Bowl special teams ace Jamal Agnew, I believe, is coming over to replace Avery Williams, who left in free agency for the Philadelphia Eagles. So this is, in my eyes, your new kick returner. He was a Pro Bowler for the Jags in 2022. He did not play at all in the regular season of 2024. Signed with the Steelers practice squad in November. Never got elevated up to the active roster on game day or stepped on the field. But speaking of stepping on the field, he is not a frequent flyer on offense. He started off, like I said, playing corner. Then halfway through his career, he made the transition to wide receiver. And looking over his offensive snap counts, going back to his last season of the regular season, 2023, just putting numbers out there in order of his most recent games, 9 snaps. 31, 10, 3, 20, 29. So this is not a signing that is fueled by adding more talent for Michael Penix to throw to. This is a special team signing and a reflection of, hey, that new rule that came in last year, the new kick return rule, well, that was actually just a 1-year trial. And it sounds like it's going to be renewed because you're seeing teams emphasize kick returners. And the Falcons could use a little bit of a spark and a boost at that position. They really have not had a kick returner that can, flip the field for them on a consistent basis for quite some time. So hard to dislike this signing. It's a very cheap signing. Mike Garafolo, 1-year deal worth a max of $2.5 million, probably a bunch of incentives in there. So a very low-level acquisition. I wouldn't even guarantee that I wouldn't even guarantee that he's got a roster spot awaiting him. He's probably got to earn it, but I like the return upside for him and what he can bring on special teams. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, by the way. We cover all signings. This one came in while we were during our live show. And so we just put together the show for you guys here. So make sure you subscribe. That way you do not miss any more Falcons signings during free agency. Now, just talking about free agency as a whole for a moment, Atlanta's been relatively quiet so far. They haven't gone out and spent a ton. The biggest signing, Divine Diablo, $14 million over 2 seasons. After that, Leonard Floyd, 1 year, $10 million. I guess the biggest signing would have to be Mike Hughes, but that's a re-signing, and he comes in with 3 years, $18 million, with a little under 10 guaranteed. So I think it's more of a 1 year, $9.6 million contract. But I'd say that the group consensus is people have been disappointed by Atlanta not spending a little bit more in free agency to beef up this defense. This is going to sound wild coming from me, because I've been a pretty harsh critic of this team at times. I don't really think there was anyone worth spending big on at the defensive end, outside linebacker position. You could have signed Josh Sweat. He went to the Cardinals. No guarantee he wanted to come to Atlanta. I often think that sometimes we take for granted that, Atlanta could have offered that, and they would have gotten him. Who's to say Josh Sweat would have taken that offer? He easily could have declined it because he wanted to go reunite with his old coach, Jonathan Gannon, down in the desert. But it was a bad offseason to need a few things: a quarterback and a defensive end. So as much criticism as I gave the Falcons last year for drafting Michael Penix, imagine if they went into this offseason needing a new quarterback and a new pass rusher. Oh my God, that would have been a disaster. They'd be picking first overall next year if that was the case. So this is what the new Falcons defense looks like for now. Obviously, with the draft, there's going to be some changes, some new faces, some new additions, but there's a lot that has to be overhauled at this unit. I'm excited just talking Falcons in general here for this Troy Anderson and Divine Diablo battle at inside linebacker. Diablo brings some much-needed speed at that position. Anderson, more Ellis and Landman than Anderson. They had cinder blocks for feet at times last year. Actually, I guess I'm just talking about Nate Landman. But Troy Anderson, when he came back from his injury, he looked like he lost a step as well. So adding some speed at that spot will be very, very nice. But Jamal Agnew comes over, just to kind of recap that, as a special team signing. He's a Pro Bowl kick return, punt return guy. I mean, I'm just going to look at his stats right here of his career when it comes to kick and punt returns. So I can't really get the numbers on screen. I know it's a lot easier for everyone. But in his career, he's got 4 punt returns for touchdowns, 2 kick returns for touchdowns. He averages on kick returns 25.5 yards, but he did not return a single kick last year with the new kickoff rules. I'd expect that number to go up. And on punt returns, he averages a little over 10 yards a return. So you're getting a very good, valuable piece on special teams, who I don't have high expectations for on offense, but that's fine with me. Special teams, we like to say, is a third of the game. I don't think it's actually a third of the game. If that was a third of the game, I think the draft would reflect that, and more return men, kickers, and punters would get drafted. That's not really the case. It's probably more like 10% of the game. But it's a 10% that can have a huge influence if it rears its ugly head at a very bad moment. So here's what the updated wide receiver room looks like for Atlanta. I think they're probably more content with this room than people give them credit for. Casey Washington, former day 3 pick last year out of Illinois. They have high hopes for him in year 2. And your top 3 guys were all high performers a season ago. So I don't expect them to be making many more additions to this spot on their roster in the draft or in free agency. But with Avery Williams leaving for the Eagles, you needed a new return man, and Jamal Agnew is the guy for the job. So How would you grade Atlanta's free agency so far? We will wrap up with this question here. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. I'm going to give the Falcons a C, and that's generous. And listen, sometimes people get upset over grades, and it's worth mentioning grades are stupid. We're grading draft picks, we're grading signings that haven't played a single snap or minute yet. Not every team has the capability of getting an A grade. Take the draft, for example. If you don't have a first-round pick, very difficult to get an A grade because you did not get a blue-chip player. In free agency, if you didn't spend a whole lot, hard to get a good grade. You didn't go out and make a big splash acquisition. But just because you didn't do that doesn't mean that you did a bad job. It's just you didn't have a lot to spend and there was nothing worth spending on at that market. So I don't think a C is, a disrespectful comment to Atlanta's offseason. I think it's a reflection of there was no one really worth spending big on at the positions you needed. And so why make a big splashy signing just for the sake of making one and you end up regretting it in a season or two? I never thought I would be defending the Falcons for not getting more pass rushers, but there just weren't a lot of great options, unfortunately. And they got Leonard Floyd, so they didn't do nothing. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in for our breakdown of this signing here. Make sure to subscribe on your way out if you haven't already, and I'll see everyone next time. Okay. Reed? Get some shout-outs?
All right. What was everyone's grades? I saw a C- from ZD Productions. I also saw Buddy Bear saying, I'm happy with my team's free agency. We didn't overpay for anyone. Is that Raiders? Or are you talking about the Falcons? Because either way, I agree. It's tough to go through free agency and not overpay for players that shouldn't be paid that much just because you need that position specifically. The Panthers, for example, they extended J.C. Horn on a contract that I love what Petey said. It is them proving to the NFL and to other teams that they made a good pick with J.C. Horn. He's a good player, but I don't think he deserves the contract that he got. We'll see what happens. Like I said, he's a good player. He's a good corner, but he's not somebody like a Jalen Ramsey or a Sauce Gardner or, honestly, Pat Surtain and AJ Terrell, and he's around there, but I don't think he deserves the contract that he got. And I think that goes back to what you're saying of overpaying for people in free agency, especially with the salary cap going up. That allows people and teams to keep the good players that they have. So this year with free agency, there's not a lot of great players like it was last year, like a Saquon Barkley. So I think with the Falcons and Buddy Bear with the Raiders, you made some good additions. Like I like the Leonard Floyd addition, but you didn't overpay for mediocre players.
I've got bad news for Georgia fans. Yeah. Georgia fans just got bad news. It's 18-3. Do you want to guess how much time is on the clock, Reed? In the first half with 13:50. They've scored 3 points. Bring back, is it Mark? No, who was the Georgia coach two coaches ago? Taylor. Pete, where are we eating at? I won about the Cooper Cup bet. Did I lose this bet? I remember making the bet, Taylor. I don't remember the conditions of the bet. Did you say he goes to Seattle and I take the field? Was that it? That might have been it. Which is sad because I said all day that Cooper.
You said you thought he was going to go.
I said maybe 10 times I think he's going to go to Seattle the day before he signed with the Seahawks. During our live show, our live coverage of free agency, anyone that's been watching that knows I said maybe honestly a dozen times. Cooper Kupp's going to go to the Seahawks from Washington. He's going to go back so he can play the Rams twice, and they're going to give him the most money. And that's exactly what happened. Clemson down 19 with 13 minutes to go. It's 21-3 Gonzaga. I have Gonzaga taking down Houston in the next round. I thought it was a bad draw for Houston. Mailbag is next up. Taylor, either way, I won't turn down getting dinner. So I'm on the diet right now, so that'll have to be kind of postponed a little bit. But either your favorite local place, or if we're going to go do like a chain, it's Texas Roadhouse. I would love nothing more than for Texas Roadhouse to become a sponsor of Falcons Today. I would do a video that's about Texas Roadhouse, and then where the Texas Roadhouse ad read would be, that's where I talk about the Falcons for 60 seconds. I would just flip it. The whole video is Texas Roadhouse, and then for 60 seconds in the middle, hey, before we get back to Texas Roadhouse, some quick Falcons news. They just traded for Micah Parsons. Back to Texas Roadhouse. They did not trade for Micah. All right. Grand Limousine, good to see you in the chat. Hope you're having a good Thursday. I am ready. Are you ready? All right. Let's go. Welcome on into a mailbag edition of Falcons Today. Matthew Peterson here answering questions from our live show, which airs every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So our very first question is coming in from Lav S. If Atlanta wants to trade down, what's a realistic team that would want to move up to 15? Lav, great question. Two teams come to mind immediately. The Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers. Denver picks 20. Chargers pick 15. I say Denver for two reasons. One, Sean Payton in New Orleans did not mind moving up and down in the draft. So there's some precedent there. Two, they need some help at running back. And if they don't think that Omarion Hampton, who is the RB2 for a lot of people in this class, is going to fall to 20, I could see them wanting to jump up. Now, I also mentioned the Chargers because I think the Chargers would love to get Colston Loveland, Jim Harbaugh's former tight end from Michigan. But what if the Chargers get spooked that the Broncos at 20, who could also use a tight end, take him? So they leapfrog their division rival to secure the next tight end for Justin Herbert. Those would be two teams I'd keep my eye on, Lav. Moving on to our next question. Matt, pick 15 best player available or positional need. Oh, pick number 15. Best player available. I was like, I'm going to give you 15 players. The thing with BPA is it's the fun, trendy thing. And I like it. Don't get me wrong. But is BPA a good pick for Atlanta if it's a running back? What if Ashton Jeanty's there? Do you want to go BPA? He would be the best player available. Probably not. So I think you got to have, this is like the work cliche. And if you go to a meeting in any company, no matter what their field of operations is, you're going to hear someone in that meeting say, it's all about finding a balance. It's all about finding a balance here. I'd say it's best player available, but you have to strip away quarterback, running back, offensive tackle, maybe not even offensive tackle if you're uneasy about Caleb McGarry. I think the need is going to dictate it, though. I just think Terry Fontenot is going to have so much pressure to just play it safe. Just take the infield single, right? Run it out, get on base. You need an edge rusher. It's a lot of good edge rushers in this class. Don't overthink it. Don't try and be the smartest guy in the room. Don't try and pretend like it's draft day and you can make all these moves. No, you need an edge. There's a good edge right there. I think it should be a relatively boring draft for Atlanta. They're not a team who I think should be making big, sexy type of trades or, surprise picks. Go get an edge. You need one? There it is. Take it. It's like a buffet. Just boop, on your plate. And go back for more. Second round? Fourth round? I don't care. All the rounds you want. On your plate. Amon K. 3-team trade idea. Falcons get Trey Hendrickson. Giants get Kirk Cousins. Bengals get Giants' 3rd-round pick and Falcons' 5th. I mean, that's a great trade for Atlanta. Not a great trade for the Bengals. The Bengals get a 3rd and a 5th for back-to-back 17.5 sacks. It's not nothing, but they'd want more. You'd have to bring up more. I think it'd have to be more than a future 5th. It'd have to be something closer to 1. And the Giants getting Kirk Cousins, I think they're going to get Russell Wilson. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to pick the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think Russell Wilson is going to pick the New York Giants. But I like the idea still. It's fun to put together 3-team trades. Josh Martinez, is this Parsons trade rumor legit? No. If you're thinking under the traditional sense of a trade rumor, no. I don't want to give people that impression of like, oh, the Falcons have given the Cowboys a call for Micah. Maybe they have, but I don't know that. I'm just trying to, and I think what Josh is referring to here is the video we put on the channel about Micah Parsons maybe being a trade target for Atlanta. I'm connecting the dots of he wants to be the new highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if the Cowboys want to do that for him. And if they don't want to pay him, Atlanta should be aggressive in trying to get a trade done. And then the Cowboys avoid paying him. They get a boatload of draft picks. And the Falcons cut the line and get a proven player at edge. Before we move on to the other questions, it's been a while since we've done this, but with all the new subscribers we have gained during the month of free agency, shout out your city for me in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I love to see how far and wide an NFL fan base stretches, so let's see who the furthest fan is from Mercedes-Benz and who the closest fan is to Mercedes-Benz. Boomsticks. Matt, what do you think about drafting Mike Green in the first round and Maxwell Harrison in the second? So this is the Marshall edge rusher and the Kentucky corner, for anyone that doesn't know. I don't dislike this idea. Mike Green, the production last year was great. A little bit of a size concern. He came in a little smaller than I expected, and so he's probably going to have to be an outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense. I mean, let me just do a quick Google live on the show. Mike Green draft. What did he kind of measure in at the combine? No, a little bigger, actually. 6'3", 251. So I'll reel that part back in. I thought it was closer to like 240. But I don't dislike this idea. It's not my favorite probably pairing, but I could definitely get on board with this one right here. Quincy McBride, who would you be shocked to see Atlanta take at 15? They took Penix and shocked the world. Can we really put anything past them? That is true. Quarterback's kind of a unique case, though, where if you love a quarterback, they're so valuable, you take them. You might love a running back, but you got Bijan, you don't take them. But in the spirit of your question, I'd say a shock the world kind of pick, it would have to be a wide receiver. When you're returning Drake London and Darnell Mooney, no one's expecting you to go receiver. But if they walk away from, which I have a hard time believing they will, from the combine, since they didn't bring any of their offensive guys up there, and they used all their meetings on defense, that'd have to be the biggest shocker. The team that only looked at defenders took Tet McMillan or Emeka Buka or Matthew Golden. Chris, do you think there is a chance the Falcons choose to draft a center over a defensive end, outside linebacker, or cornerback as their first pick? No, there's not a chance. There's not going to be a center that goes in the top 50 picks. It's not a good year for a team searching for a center. The offensive line this year, there are some good players in it, but overall, it's not one of the strengths of this draft. I think that's reflected by a lot of the offensive tackle signings in free agency. Dan Moore, he was the Steelers' left tackle last year. He got the bag in Tennessee. He was, of the 32 healthy starting left tackles in football, he was probably somewhere between 30 and 32. And the Titans gave him, I think, $80 million. That, to me, tells me what the Titans think about the tackles in this draft class. And they weren't the only team to make a dumb overpay like that. The Chiefs did it with a guard from the 49ers to move to tackle. The Giants paid a backup tackle $11 million. I bring all this up to say it's not a good time to need a center, so I don't expect them to go center early in the draft whatsoever. ZD Productions. Could you see us getting a next year because of Koo coming off a bad season and Riley Patterson being horrible? Also, you're not ever going to forget the Koo incident. Or, no, I'm not going to forget it. I got. You never forget the first time you got live on a show. I could see them bringing in like a UDFA kicker after the draft. What they might do is bring someone in, have them kind of work out, right? And then cut them. And if Koo runs into troubles in September and October, they feel like they have a head start. on who could replace him if they need to. They're like, well, we worked with this guy over the summer, and let's bring him back because he already kind of knows what we're all about here. That'd be as close as I think Atlanta gets to that. Evan, should Atlanta get a pass rusher in free agency and get Will Johnson or Starks in the draft and get a pass rusher later in the draft? I like this idea, Evan, mostly for the Will Johnson part. You get what you already have, Leonard Floyd, Will Johnson in round 1, and then round 2, Jack Sawyer, Landon Jackson, the guy from Boston College who Donovan E. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm still trying to memorize that. There are some really good edges in round 2 of the draft. So I don't think that's going to be a fan favorite idea because people that just are casual fans will go, we were 31st in sacks last year. We took a corner. And I wouldn't be mad at them for thinking that. But I think once they learn how good of a player Will Johnson's going to be, they're going to warm up to that in the future. Evan, thank you so much for the question. Really appreciate it. Boyd, any more news on Trayvon Walker being available? No, I just think that was an internet rumor. And sometimes internet rumors turn into truth. Who was it? Oh, this is not quite apples to apples, but someone on Twitter had the West Virginia coach going to Indiana a week before it happened. And it was like an internet rumor, and then it actually happened. But college is a whole different beast than the pros. This is all in reference to Walter Football, you know, that site. They put out this rumor, we'll call it, of Walker could be available for a trade. I'm not going to look at Walter Football as the guy with great sources in Duval that knows about the first overall pick being available for a trade. I wouldn't be shocked if the young, new, hotshot GM in Jacksonville thinks he's smarter than everyone else and decides, I'm going to trade Walker, get a bunch of picks, and I can build a better team with more picks rather than one player who has not lived up to first overall expectations, who's still quietly been good. 2 straight seasons with 10 or more sacks. So I give it a very low chance of happening, but I won't say 0. Patrick Richardson, Falcons over everything. I love the rah-rah mentality to end the mailbag here, Patrick. Thank you so much for the question. Well, I guess statement rather. So shout out to Patrick. Everyone spam Patrick in the chat. Show the guy some love for showing you some love. Thank you all so much for tuning in. That will do it for us on today's mailbag. We're going to sign off, and we're going to see everyone later with more Falcons news and rumors. Do I speak Spanish? Not a lick. Rusty, je suis désolé, mais je parle français. I took French in high school and college. I got to just throw this into Google Translate. I have no idea. Let's see what Rusty had to say. I actually, for once, feel like, you know when you watch a movie and 2 characters are speaking in Spanish and they're talking shit about the white person and the white person has no idea that they're being, shit talked? You ready for this translation? Terry's balls aren't big enough to trade for Micah. If I were the GM, Micah would be a Falcon. I love it. I love it. I love it, Rusty. Thank you. There's got to be someone in the chat right now who's a Spanish speaker that just laughed out loud knowing no one else gets this right now. Yep, we'll end with this. I wish I could stay live longer, but I do have a flight to catch. I'm flying Southwest. So there's a 90% chance it'll be delayed anyway, but I don't want to risk it.
Producer Reed also has to use the restroom.
And Reed's got to use the little boys' room. So who do you have winning your bracket? While you're doing that, let me do a March Madness scoreboard update. McNeese State 51-29 over Clemson with 8 minutes to go. The Bulldogs have moved off of 3 points, but they trail by 19, 30-11. Meanwhile, BYU pulling away from VCU 39-28, and Auburn handling Alabama State by 20 points. So those are the games going on right now. We haven't had an upset yet today. No, it's been chalk so far by seeding. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Enjoy. ZDP. Someone asked what was the coup incident. Can you explain? when we were live the first or second day of free agency last week, ZD Productions was spamming in the chat, the Falcons just cut Younghoe Koo, and I believed him for a minute because, if you remember, Twitter was down the first day of free agency, so I was hard to get news updates, and I thought maybe his Twitter is up and running and he's seeing something I'm not seeing, so for 60 seconds, I mentally bought it, and then I found out he fabricated the whole thing. That's going to do it for us now. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy. Oh, Super Chat. Grand Limousine. Grand Limousine with a $10 Super Chat that just says 25. I like the creativity. Call it 35 altogether. Grand Limousine, thank you so much for your Super Chat, your support of the channel, continuing to be one of the most generous viewers we have. Everyone use Grand Limousine next time you need a limousine, a shuttle, a bus, or anything of that nature in the Atlanta. Another Super Chat from Grand Limousine. Grand Limousine, you guys send in some more Super Chats to pay for my new flight if I end up missing this plane because of your supers. Grand Limousine, everyone. Thank you so much. Like the unofficial limousine sponsor of Falcons Today. The best way to put it. Elliot, W for Grand Limousine. W for Grand Limousine in D. 1 second, Grand Limousine. There it is. Grand Limousine, salute to you. Hope you're having a good one. Thank you so much, as always, for supporting the channel. Everyone, enjoy your March Madness opening weekend, and I'll be back with more videos throughout the weekend and fresh content on Sunday.